I was a shy, introverted kid, and at 19, I moved to a new city. I didn't know anyone. I had no social circle, no friends, and was getting super lonely. After being in this state for a long enough time, I knew something had to change. I was so sick and tired of my current situation. This is the story of how I went from a shy, introverted kid to a confident, outgoing guy. And I'm gonna give you 4 guiding principles for you to do the exact same thing. So it all started when I was 19. My family moved to a new city, and I knew absolutely no one there. And this went on for months. I didn't go out, didn't talk to anybody, had no friends, and over time just kept getting lonelier and lonelier. So after about 5 months, I decided to go to an 18+ club. The thing is, I actually knew about this club the entire time. I just didn't have the courage or confidence to go out alone and meet people. So I decided to go out on a Wednesday, being that they have Thursday night 18+. And the whole next day, I was so anxious. I literally threw up before I went out, but I was so determined to change my situation that I continued to go out either way. So once I was there, it actually wasn't that bad. And this is the first principle, is that the fear is the biggest thing holding you back. The first step is usually the hardest. Actually going was the hardest part for me. The whole buildup in my mind was the scariest thing. When I actually got there, I settled in and relaxed a little bit, and it wasn't that bad. And then I went and talked to a guy and, made friends. And before you know it, I actually talked to a couple girls and things started going really well. I played some pool and it was a really fun night. And all the fear that had built up was all imaginary. Even though I was still shy, introverted, not the best communicator like I am now, I was able to have a good night and make friends. And it wasn't really anything that crazy that was gonna happen. So it was all built up in my imagination. So the first step is the hardest one, but if you can get over that, everything is gonna be okay. I promise you. Think about your life. How many times have you overbuilt something up in your mind to the point where it didn't even come anywhere close to what you thought it was gonna be? So that was the first principle that I learned, is that you just gotta get out there, you gotta do exactly what it is that scares you, and over time it's gonna get easier and easier. So after that, I actually ended up talking to a girl, and she ended up being my girlfriend for some time. And that was one of the best experiences I had. And this was the night that really allowed me to shift everything and realize that I can control my situation, that I don't just have to be a byproduct of the circumstances that happened, like moving and leaving my friend group where I was from. So after this, I ended up doing tons of cold approaches to break out of my shell. I went to bars and clubs alone. And even just the last 5 months when I was in Sweden, my best friend has a girlfriend. So he wasn't able to come out with me all the time, and he didn't want to always come out. So I was going out all by myself those 5 months, and it really wasn't that scary. It's the same thing I did back when I first started, but now I just go out and I'm a normal person, and I get to the line and I start chatting with people, and I'm having a good time throughout the entire night, exploring new cities, new cultures in foreign countries, and that's what I truly love to do. So this is going to take us to the second principle, which is that fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. So if I had the same mindset I have now, I wouldn't have worried about all those things when I first went out that first time in Florida. But it was so much fear going on in my head that it built up, and really there was really nothing to it. It was all imaginary and all made up. And this is the next one, which is every single time I've went out, the more I talk to people, whether it's guys, girls, young, old, it doesn't matter. The easier it gets to start talking to more people. So whatever this means to you, whether you need to progressively overload this and start with someone who's an older person who's just gonna be nice, nothing bad can come out of it, and talk to them and then build your way up to talking to, guys your age and then eventually girls, or if you just go straight for it and you just start talking to everybody no matter where you go, you're gonna start getting a snowball effect where you start building this momentum from talking to people, and it starts getting easier and easier. Because the thing is, after having gone out by myself so many nights, the nights that I actually didn't chat with everyone, when I had a little bit of an off day and I didn't talk to people in the line, and the first thing I did was just grab a drink and kind of hang out by myself for a minute, take a seat, I noticed that those nights I ended up talking to so many less people in all. So those made it so much harder for me to start getting the ball rolling. But if you just get the ball rolling from the second you go out, like there's this one time when I met someone on the train, he became my train buddy. In Sweden, we would ride the train, talk about girls. And then by the time I got to the city, I'd already had a full-blown conversation with someone, all because I said hi at the train station. So this is an example of how you can just start no matter where you are, at the train station, on the line to the club. whether you're at the gym, no matter where it is, you should always be trying to talk to everyone. And this is gonna allow you to break out of your shell and get that snowball rolling, really making you more confident, more outgoing, and making the whole process easier. And this takes us to our fourth and final guiding principle, which is gonna be that it's kind of like exposure therapy. The more you do something, the less desensitized you're gonna become to it. Think about that first time I went to Florida. I was out in Florida at the 18 plus club, how terrified I was, and it wasn't that bad. And then most recently, the last 5 months in Sweden, I must have gone out at least 50 to 100 times just by myself. And it was just a normal day for me. It wasn't anything crazy. There was no fear buildup. I was excited, I was happy, just doing my thing and meeting a bunch of people, and had a great time doing it. So over time, things will get easier. As long as you stay consistent with them, you're constantly working on yourself, improving, and trying to break down any self-limiting beliefs you have. The reality you can have is limitless. You can do whatever you want with this life, but you have to be able to stay consistent with it over time. It didn't just go from that one night being anxious to the next day I was confident and outgoing. It took some time. It took me probably a good year. So it was like the first time I went out in Sweden 3 years ago, when I first was an adult, first went back there, I went out to a club knowing absolutely no one, once again, doing the same thing I did in Florida. But this time around, it was a little bit easier. But I still had a tinge of anxiety leading up to going out. And I just didn't have it as bad because I'd been going out, I'd been meeting people, and I realized that it wasn't terrible. And then fast forward over the years, now I'm able to do this all the time by myself with absolutely no issue. So you need to just keep doing that thing that you fear, and you'll realize over time that nothing bad's gonna come out of it. So really, to sum it up, most of your fears are imaginary. That's one of the things that all four of these principles have, is fear and self-limiting beliefs. So if you can overcome those fears and those limiting beliefs you have, you can quickly make a huge change in your life. Your own thoughts and your own beliefs are what holds you back. And when I thought I was a shy, introverted kid, that was the label and the identity I gave myself. Now I give myself a confident, outgoing guy identity, and that's who I am. So these are all things that you have to work on, and you'll learn and develop throughout the process if you truly want to make this happen. But the only person who can do this is you. It's not going to be me. I can't force you to do anything. And as much as I can encourage you and tell you about my stories and my experiences, it's all going to come down to you if you truly want to make this happen and make that change for the better. So that's all for this video. If you got any value out of this, if this inspired you to go out and make a change for the better in your life, then subscribe to this channel and comment down below what you're going to start doing to take action. I'd love to hear about it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.